So, this is the second lesson on simultaneous equations with different coefficients. Now, we've already had a little look at the fact that we need to change one of our equations to make either A or B the same. Now, the ones that we've looked at previously, we only needed to change one of our equations. The problem we've got here is that sometimes we need to change more than one. Okay, so let's start off with this one, example 1 on the left hand side. So get this one here in your notes. Example, well, I don't think it's actually example 1, is it? I think it's example 3, actually. Okay. So solve the simultaneous equations. Now this one is tricky. The reason this one's tricky is because it's got a negative involved and it's got a decimal, but that's okay. So solve the following simultaneous equations. Now I'm going to label this as I'm going to label these as 1 and 2, like so. Now the problem we've got here is that both A and B are not the same. Okay, both A and B are not the same. We don't have the same coefficients on A or B. Okay, so I'm going to have to either make A or B the same. Now for this one here, I'm actually going to make B the same. Okay, but the problem with that is you've got to try and find what number does the coefficients of B go into. So the question you're asking yourself is, what's the coefficient? The coefficient, remember, is that number in front of B. So the coefficient of B is 4 and 3. So the question you're asking yourself is, what number does 4 and 3 go into? What number does 4 and 3 go into? So if we do the multiples of 4, it's going to be 4, 8, 12, so 12, 16, and 3, 6, 9, 12. They both go into 12. So what do I need to times the top one by to make it out of 12? I need to times to get 4 by 12, I need to times by 3 there. To make the B 12, I need to times by 4. Remember, you're trying to make the B the same, trying to make the coefficients the same. So if I times all of this equation by 3, I end up with A times by 3, which is 3A, minus 4B times by 3 is minus 12B, is equal to 10.5 times by 3. I'm going to do that on my calculator. So 10.5 times by 3 is equal to 31.5. So let's write that down. 31.5. Now I'm timesing the top by 3 and I'm timesing the bottom by 4 to make the B 12B as well. So let's times all of them by 4 though. 4A times by 4 is 16A. 3B times by 4 is plus 12B. And 15 times by 4, well 15 times by 2 is 30. 45, 60 in total there. Now the reason that I've done this is to make the coefficient of B the same. That's the whole point, isn't it? You're making the coefficients of B the same. Now once you've done that, the question you've got to ask yourself is the number in front of B the same or is it different? Okay, so if I look at B, which is this one here, the coefficients of B are different, which means that you need to add these. Okay, so if I add these, I end up with 3A. Now remember, the reason you're adding them is because when the symbols are different, if we add them, it cancels out the 12B. Because minus 12B plus 12B is 0. So when I add these, 3A plus 16A is 19A. 12B, sorry, minus 12B plus 12B is nothing. And 31.5 plus 60 is 91.5. So, what we need to do now is we then need to get A on its own, and we do that by dividing by 19 and dividing by 19. So 91 divided by 19, let's do that, 91.5, sorry, divided by 19 is equal to a horrible number. Just want to check. Oh, I've made a little mistake, haven't I? Can everybody see where my little mistake is? I can see where it is. My little mistake is the fact that this was minus 10.5. So times that by 3, this needs to be minus 31. And then when I add these together, minus 31 plus 60, let's do that on the calculator. Now this one is hard, but that's why we're doing it. Minus 31.5 plus 60 is equal to 28.5. That makes more sense. So I just need to change that to 28.5. So this one here is 28.5, and then 28.5 divided by 19. Let's do that. 28.5 divided by 19 is 1.5. That's a lot nicer, isn't it? So A is equal to 1.5. Now remember, to find out what B is, I need to substitute that back into my original equation. So we sub A equals 1.5 into equation 1 to find B. So equation 1 is this. A minus 4B is equal to negative 10.5. So I've got to sub this back in. So it's going to be 1.5 minus 4B is equal to minus 10.5. Now I'm just going to bring this, let's make everything a little bit smaller, just so I've got enough space. Okay, so then to solve this, I need to minus 1.5 minus 1.5. Now this is tough, which gives me minus 4B. Minus 10 minus 1.5 is equal to minus 11 minus 12. And then divide by minus 4. Divide by minus 4. B divided by minus 4 is equal to positive 3. And there are two answers here. So A is equal to 1.5 and B is equal to 3. Now this isn't easy, which is why we need to make sure we understand it completely, okay? We need to make sure that we're really taking our time with this. I will have a go at one more question. I'll do this one on the right hand side. I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a go at some yourself. So I'll do one more. So this one here is example 4. So, solve the simultaneous equation A plus 3B is equal to negative 5 and 2A plus B is equal to 5. Now remember, we want to either make the A's or the B's the same. So the first thing I'm going to do is to label my equations. And I'm going to make B the same. So let's write over here, make B the same. Now the question you've got to ask yourself is, what do I need to times one of these equations by to make B the same? Well, you can see that the top one's 3B and the bottom one's just B. So if I times the bottom one by 3, I'll have the B's the same. So I need to keep the top one the same, which is A plus 3B is equal to negative 5. And if I times the bottom one by 3, you've got to times the 2A by 3 first, which is 6A plus 3B is equal to 5 times by 3, which is 15. So I've times that bottom equation by 3. So the next thing you need to ask yourself is, are the symbols on B the same or are they different? Well, the symbols on B here are the same, which means that I need to subtract my equations. Now again, the reason this one's tricky is because we're dealing with negatives. Okay, so A take away 6A, well 1A that would be, take away 6A is equal to minus 5A. 3B, take away 3B is nothing, that's the point. And then the last one, minus 5, take away 15 is minus 20. Now remember, I've got minus 5A there, not A. I want A on its own. So the next thing I need to do is to get rid of that minus 5. And I do that because that's minus 5 times by A by dividing by negative 5 and dividing by negative 5. So I end up with A is equal to negative 20 divided by negative 5. Well, a minus divided by a minus is a positive. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Like so. Now we're nearly finished. The last thing we need to do is we just need to put this back into equation 1 to find out what B is. Now actually, it looks like it's easier because B is on its own to put it into equation 2. So I'm going to sub A equals 4 into equation 2 to find B. Now remember, the reason I've subbed it into 2 and not 1 is because it's just a single B on its own, which means that it's actually easier to do that. So equation 2 is 2A plus B is equal to 5. Remember, I'm subbing in A is equal to 4, which is going to be 2 times 4, because A is 4, plus B is equal to 5. I'll then need to simplify that, because 2 times 4 is 8. So 8 plus B is equal to 5. And then the last little stage here is to get rid of that 8. And I do that by minusing 8 and subtracting 8. So minus 8, minus 8. So B is equal to 5 minus 8, which is minus 3. So it's difficult because we're dealing with those negatives. So we've got to get rid of that 8 to get the B on its own. So let's just check those answers. 1.5 and 3. And 4 and minus 3. Brilliant. Okay. If you're catching up, here's some questions for you to have a little go at. So if you're catching up, here's some questions for you to have a little go at. And if you're catching up, then we'll get the answers for you in a second.